Get ready to rock.
Welcome to our GRTR at 20 podcast series. And now an interview from March 2008 with Doogie White, one time with Rainbow and Yngwie Malmsteen, amongst many others.
In terms of like your music, I mean, I have to say that looking back over the years, it's almost like you're a singer for hire, really. It's like you've worked with a number of different musicians. And do you think really there's any merit in like being in a band for, you know, a number of years so that's your band, or how? Because it doesn't seem to have worked out for you perhaps until more recently when you've hooked up with the guy in Royal Hunt and Cornerstone. But what's your take on that, really? I mean, is there more of a bonding thing when you've got a regular band?
I was very much a jobbing, hard-working sort of musician. From my professional career, kind of started in the late 80s, if you like. You know, with Midnight Blue, and we signed with Chrysalis, but it never came to anything, and it never came to anything because all the British bands we were in competition with Thunder and the Choir Boys and the Almighty and Gun and all these different guys. So that all sort of went by the wayside. I'd been with Midnight Blue, and we were signed to Chrysalis, and it had all gone to the wall as we explained about the Little Angels and the Guns and the Almighties and the Thunders and stuff. And I was unemployed, and Deep Purple were coming to town with Joe Lynn Turner in the band, and I couldn't afford to go, and I was a massive Deep Purple fan. And I had a friend who I used to play football with who was working for Deep Purple and the record company at the time, and he got me a ticket for the show and an after-show party pass. So I thought it would be quite prudent of me if I could take along at those times, it was a tape, and I took it along and gave it to Colin Hart, who was the tour manager, and said, look, if it doesn't work out with Joe Lynn Turner in Deep Purple, give this tape to Richie Blackmore anyway, and if he wants, you know, I'd love to sing with him. And it was 3 years later or so that Richie actually called me up and said, listen, I got your tape from Colin Hart and I really liked it. Do you want to join Rainbow? So I went over to New York and spent some time with him. And I was with Richie from 94 to 97. And of course, I got to tour the world. I got to write with Richie, who was my favourite guitar player, my favourite songwriter, right through the Purple era and right through the Rainbow. So that was a big plus for me. But the Rainbow album that I did with him came right when grunge was massive. You know, you had Soundgarden and Nirvana, and we were kind of dismissed by the press. And it's only now that the press and with the internet that people are starting to look back at the album Stranger Than Us All that we did together and thinking, actually, that was a bloody good album. So I went, and then after that, I kind of went through a period where, you know, I was still working. I was doing adverts. I mean, I was the voice of Action Man for 2 years. Who, if you're old enough to remember, was the little action figure. Yeah. I was doing all that kind of stuff. I never really saw myself as a voice to hire. I thought I was just always a voice in the wilderness, because there wasn't anything for me really to do.
Yes.
And it wasn't until 2001, really, when Yngwie came along and said, "Listen, do you want to join my band?" That I kind of found not a home for my writing talents or for my musical talents, but I got a chance to go around the world 3 or 4 times in that period. And I mean, that's really why I did it. You know, because my musical expression came out with Cornerstone and with Empire. But my touring ambitions and my opportunity to get out and see the world and go to places, those doors were opened up by Yngwie. And of course I got to put my foot in the big monitor stand under the big spotlights, and I got to do that with him. That was kind of the reason for me being there as long, because there was no real satisfaction musically as a writer to do it, but as a performer, and it is a different thing. But as a performer, I got to go out and play in some of the biggest stages in the world, in some of the most bizarre places in the world. It was amazing. I still don't see it as a vocalist for hire. I still see it as my creative work as a writer and performer is with Cornerstone and Empire, but my on-stage performance is with, or was, it was with Yngwie.
Yes. Two great guitarists, Malmsteen and, of course, Ritchie Blackmore. And, of course, Malmsteen was heavily influenced by Blackmore. But how do you think they differ in terms of their approach in a band? I mean, for you, Doogie, were they hard taskmasters?
You know, I'm always very respectful of people that have been in the business and been that successful for so long. And so, of course, I had been a fan of what Ritchie had done for a very, very long time. I mean, since I was like 13 or 14 years old was the first time that I heard Ritchie. So to get the opportunity to work with him was, but he's a sharing kind of guy. He doesn't mind sharing the spotlight. And in that, I mean that you can, he'll share the writing with you. If you have an idea that he thinks works for his riff or his song construction, then he'll share it. Yngwie is very much, he likes the big spotlights for himself. I mean, if there's going to be two spotlights on the stage, both of them are going to be shining on him. So you have to. So it was just a matter of juggling. Yngwie was more difficult to work with than Ritchie was. But once you get in the rhythm of either of these guys, and it's about showing them the respect they deserve. One for having been in the business for 40 years and being successful, and one being in the business for 20 years and being successful. And the thing is that you don't carry an ego around with you, and it's a thing that I leave at home. I've got a little bag that I was given by Ritchie's roadie that I put my ego in, and I just leave it at home with my wife. and I'm allowed to come home and be mental for a week or 10 days, and then I get a Doogie do list. Is it 2 days, darling? 2 days, and then I have to get my ego out of the bag and put it back in my head.
Yes.